Welcome to this episode of the GROWTHCAST. It's me, Jackson Campbell, joined here live with Dallas Pruitt here in the Maui office. Dallas, welcome to
the
Maui office, dude.
Yes.
You've been here for you've spent the whole day with us here today. Flew in yesterday. You're going to be here for a few more days. We're pumped to have you here. And pumped to get a podcast in live. We don't get to do this very often.
It's been nice to meet some people in person.
Yeah, that's true. This is the first time
we
we met
Nico on camera right now, but it's been pretty sweet to just be with the team that I've been seeing through a computer screen for the last little while.
Yeah, get some actual FaceTime with them. No, it's been awesome. It's been awesome having you here. You're here with Haley and your brand new.
I'm not here by myself. Last time I came, it was strictly
work.
Yep, and there's lots of work to be done, but I've got my newborn and I've got my beautiful wife with me.
Yes.
So
it's awesome.
It's been fun. They're out doing something fun today.
Good.
So
as they should be.
Yeah.
No, so we've got Dallas here in office. So we wanted to take advantage of the opportunity being together to be able to record. As we start here, just for all of you that are just joining us, that this may be the first podcast you're listening to, just to give you a quick rundown. Monday through Thursday, we have daily drips with Dallas Pruitt. Every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Dallas will drop a daily drip of some mindset principle to really just get you started for the day and keep you in the right mindset. Friday is an Aloha Friday episode where I sit down and I interview Tyler Deveraux, and Tyler waxes poetic on whatever topic that we decide that day. And sometimes it's real estate, sometimes it's mindset, but they were very powerful episodes nonetheless. And then on Saturday we record this episode that we're doing now, which is an extended cut episode where I get the opportunity to more pick Dallas's brain on these episodes. The Monday through Thursday episodes is just thoughts that Dallas has, but this is the opportunity where I get to ask Dallas some questions and we get to know a little bit more about him and about some more mindset principles. So that's what we're going to do today. As we dive in, don't forget to rate, review, share the podcast. That's the only thing that we ask our listeners to do is share the podcast. So if you could do that, it would help a ton, and we would very much appreciate it. Anything you want to add, Dal, before we dive in here?
Yeah, the only other piece is we've been asking you to reach out and help us to hone in on some very specific struggles, obstacles, issues that you face. I mean, we pull our insight, principles, and strategies from real-life issues that we are seeing come and unfold in the network, in the community that we serve, and really try to bring as much relevancy to the real-time issues that people are going through in growing their businesses, becoming the best version of themselves. And I've got a lot of experience in that area and working with other people throughout the course of my career, so we obviously lean heavily on those experiences. But today I'm excited because we're going to be able to hone in on a very specific problem.
Yes.
Common problem that was something that was actually brought to our attention from listeners, somebody in the community.
Yeah.
And we know it's not just a one-off. We know it's not just like a unique problem to this individual.
So this is the problem. We got this message, and I just want to read it. I'm not going to say a name because we didn't ask for permission, but we so appreciate this person bringing this problem or this difficulty to the forefront. This I'm going to just go ahead and read it. It says the following: Things are changing for the better. I'm certain Things are changing for the better. I'm certain when you are under the most pressure. I had to decide for myself that this is where I want to be no matter what anyone else says, even if that I used to think that their opinion was important to me. I do not think that I am the only one here who has had their family tell them that they are wasting your money and your time. Talking about moving forward with our mentorship program that we have. Yeah. Right? It's a difficulty, like this person mentioned. They're not the only one that has that difficulty. All right? There's been multiple people of family or friends telling you that you're making the wrong decision, right? This person said you're spending too much money, you're wasting too much money, or you're wasting money on this program.
Yeah.
But really what the core problem here is listening to other people's input that maybe you shouldn't even be listening to, right? This example was money, but there's going to be people that come into your life, even in your inner circle, that are going to try to persuade you from doing what you've decided you need to do.
What you feel is necessary. I was using the terminology earlier of what you feel like you've been called to do, like something that you've actually like worked hard for an answer for, and then it's come in the form of it was the answer.
Right.
But now you're second guessing it being the answer because of someone's opinion
of what
about what you've decided and committed to. Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough area to navigate. I wanted to unpack one thing before you even jump. We're going to jump into all of this, but there was a part in that post. This individual said that even though you thought their opinions mattered to you, something like that. I don't even, if you have it again, I'd almost like you to reread that specific line where they had said, putting value on other people's opinions.
I had to decide for myself that this is where I wanted to be no matter what anyone else says, even if that I used to think their opinion was important to me.
I used to think their opinion was important to you. I wanted to unpack that for a second because I think that we as individuals think way too broad or generalized with things like opinions. So, for example, this individual, me, I'll use me as an example. That's an easy example. I actually do care about the opinions of other people within my circle, but not all their opinions. For example, and I was giving this prior, my dad, I care a lot and I put a ton of value on his opinion in terms of my fatherhood, what I'm doing, what I'm not doing. Why? Because my dad's a very good dad. My dad has always been a very good dad. So I put a lot of value on his opinion. I listen very loudly. But there are other aspects of life that my dad's not an expert in. And I'm not going to put as much value, maybe even any value. And my dad's just one example of many people in my life that I've got to be careful of how I navigate the value I put on that opinion. I mean, I got to really dive into where that's coming from.
Right.
Where is it coming from?
Right.
Is it coming from experience or is it coming from fear? Right? And so I think, and we can unpack that even further, but I think that we have to be very careful about saying we don't care about the opinions of other people. We actually should care about the opinions of other people, but we have to strategically look to who that person is, what their experience is, if they've went down a path that's similar to what you're striving to go towards, if they were successful in doing that, and if they were, and if all those cards stack up, then we probably should value direction, advice, opinions. That's really why people are here listening to us, listening to Tyler so heavily on multifamily and what they should or shouldn't be doing. There's a lot of value in that opinion, that advice, that direction, that insight, that teaching, because the guy's done it. There's a lot of value that's put on the advice, insight, principle, strategies that I bring to the table in terms of mindset because of the work I've done, the experience I have, and the skill set that I've built through hands-on hard experiences, going through hard situations and going down that path. So I think that, that's an actionable in and of itself, is you have to unpack where's it coming from? What directions are they giving, and what's the grounds in which they're giving you that advice? Unpack it.
Along those lines, it really reminds me of the last Aloha Friday that Tyler and I released. It actually will release the day before this episode. But in that episode, we talked about things that serve you and things that don't serve you.
Yep.
And that's how you have to, and that's truly how you have to weigh the opinions, especially of those people that are close to you. Especially like in this example, it was their family telling them that they were making the wrong decision, right? And I think in those moments as well, you really have to stop and think, is what this person's saying, is it serving me or is it not serving me?
Yeah.
And then that's how you decide to put value on that opinion or not.
Totally.
Is that opinion going to help you get to your goal? If the answer is no, then don't put any weight on it. Don't put any sort of value on it, like Dallas is saying, and throw it out the window. Is it serving you? Is that opinion going to help you get closer to your goal? Then there's probably some value there, and it does serve you.
Let's take that a step further and make it even more real for people, right? So W-2, lots of people listening work a W-2 right now. They're working towards
a W-2. When Dallas says W-2 means 9 to 5, just
they work a 9 to 5 job. They work for somebody else.
Yep.
And I don't care whether you love, hate, I don't care where you fall. You work for someone else, but you're working towards growing your own business. You're working towards syndicating more deals, doing that full time. having full autonomy and running that full time, right? Whatever that is. And so I worked a 9 to 5. I had a career prior. I still have a career. Like, this is my career, but like my career was working for someone else on their clock. 9 to 5 for me, it was 8 to 4 for me, right? 7:30 to 4. I was constricted. But I also worked within an environment of people that when I started to talk about what I actually wanted to do, this pivot, this next step in my journey, this vision that I had for my life, for my career, my business, I started to open up to some of those people in that space. What do you think the response was in terms of gaining traction and momentum when I had that dialogue with individuals who were working within that same 7:30 to 4 who had a completely different perspective about the possibilities that existed outside of that?
Probably wasn't great advice.
Total resistance.
Probably, yeah, just complete resistance.
Confusion. It was almost confusion. It wasn't, and then the confusion, once I even got more adamant about sharing details, or when I didn't always. I was very careful or cautious about how I navigated that with those individuals. But I was also very observant and noticed that, like, the reason I became cautious is that was exactly it. There was no momentum that was being built in those conversations. There was a lot of resistance, and I became sensitive to that very early on. So I became almost closed off, and that was difficult too, because it's like I needed to have an outlet to go share and grab insight and like, I didn't know where to go at that point. You know, my inner sanctum was like me, my wife, and then most other people I was talking to. It was very hard for them to understand my vision.
Right.
It wasn't theirs. That's a key part too. It wasn't their vision. So I'm trying to, like, share my vision with all these other people, but, like, that's not their vision. That's mine.
Yeah.
But also they'd never been where I was going. Like, everybody I was talking to had never, ever been and done what I was trying to do.
Right. I have a
and
question.
when that clicked, it was like, oh.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question. So you're working with these people 7 to 3. You were working in the school, so it was all day. You were with these people
every day.
You realized that they weren't the people that were going to help support you and uplift you to fulfill your purpose and your dreams. How did you go about separating yourself from those people?
Yeah.
Right? Because there's got to be some sort of separation. I don't know if it was a conversation or what had happened there, but I think that's an important actionable that we could learn from you on that experience that you had there. What did you do to slowly kind of separate yourself from these individuals that weren't going to help you?
So there was a physical separation.
Okay.
Like proximity. I couldn't put myself in proximity with these individuals in settings where there wasn't a specific purpose for being there. Yep. Does that make sense? Like, I had to go to meetings and we had to take care of business. But, like, sounds crazy, but like lunch groups, the invites would come, and the decision I had to make was, no, I'm not going. What was I going to talk about? There was no relatability. There was no energy being built up that was positive and feeding that force of, I want to move in this direction. I had recognized we were moving different directions. It's not my job to be judgmental towards them that they're not moving in the direction I want to go. Why can't you guys figure your shit out? Why are you sitting in this and not, like, doing something about it? Why don't you see the bigger picture? I went down that route, and I'm telling you, it's very detrimental. Very detrimental to you. It's very detrimental to them. It's very detrimental to the relationships. It serves no purpose, or it serves a negative purpose. Mm-hmm. So the best decision I could muster up was I needed to literally physically separate myself in those circumstances, those situations. And I did. And it was lonely in some ways. But it was also, like, super liberating. Yeah. It was more liberating than it was lonely. Yeah. I don't want to say that it wasn't lonely at all, because there were moments where it was like, man, I wish I had somebody to talk to. Like, I wish there was somebody who could relate. But that only came after I decided to make the conscious decision to proactively search out other people that could relate with what I was doing. Yeah. And that is a little bit of a scary process for somebody that hasn't branched out and done something hasn't
made
allowed
such a
themselves
shift.
to be vulnerable enough to go out and like extend a friendship.
Yeah.
Try to cultivate a relationship with someone else. And, you know, one of those people that did that for me was just happened to be a guy on my street, man. Like luck would have it, I was connected with this guy who had grown multiple businesses, was an entrepreneur, wrote a book, had been down the path that like I was motivated and inspired and I felt like I was called to go do, that was where I needed to be, was where I needed to go. And it changed everything for me. All of a sudden, momentum, energy, and all these other things started to build up because I now had somebody who did serve my direction, did serve me, and those other people served me in other ways. I'm not saying that they didn't serve me in other ways, and I think that's an important thing to recognize too. You shouldn't weed them entirely out. No. Some of those people are still some of my best friends.
Yeah.
They serve a purpose.
They serve you in a different way.
They did not serve the purpose of going down that path that I had never been down, that other people had. I didn't have those people. Yeah. And if I did, I didn't recognize, I didn't know it until I started to open up and kind of test that process of like, oh, okay, well, that's not the route. Oh, Ron, you grew this business, you did this, yeah. And then it was also like, boom, spark. Whoa, I got to get used to these mics. But spark and then at that point, man, that was a game changer for me, because now I was with someone who I could listen to very loudly, who had grown a business, who was an entrepreneur, who had sold multiple businesses off and made millions of dollars, who wrote a book, who founded all these companies that were rooted in things like positivity, love, and service, that was his hyper focus, who was a philanthropist, who had a church calling in my area, right, that I was living in, that had all the time in the world now to serve at the highest magnitude possible, because that's what it produced for him, and that's what he was rooted in. Like, there were all these things I was learning, and it was like, man, I need to listen to this guy's advice. I need to listen to this guy's direction. I need to hear him loudly. And when I put my time and energy and focus into hearing him loudly and spending less time, and almost to a point where no time that I was hearing anybody who hadn't been there, man, the strides that I made during that stage of my life were enormous. And I've continued down that pattern, and that's why mentorship, that's why these types of networks, that's why these types of processes are so crucial, but that's why mindset's so crucial, is because you can't live in that space, move down that path, and still stay stuck in the path that you've been in and listen to all that advice over there. Yeah.
Dude, that experience that you just shared now is so powerful and so applicable and relatable, right? So I asked Dallas, what did he do to separate himself from these individuals that weren't going to help him get to where he wants to go? And he said he literally stopped spending as much time with them and replaced those individuals and that support that you needed with somebody that was going to fill it.
Yep.
So that's it. So that's the important actionable here that I want to pull out. I want to add something as well. But the important actionable that I want to pull out of that is separate yourself physically if you're able to. Right? Sometimes you're not able to. Sometimes you live in your house with your mom and your dad, or maybe it's a sister or an aunt or something, and they're so close and you can't separate yourself physically. But when you're able to, separate yourself physically and find somebody that's going to fill that void of that individual that you need. Such an important actionable.
Totally.
The one thing that I want to add here, as Dallas is saying, I asked him, what do you do to separate yourself from these people? What do you do in these situations? Something that I would like to add here is something that I've done in these situations is you have to find empathy and kindness for those individuals that are not necessarily trying to bring you down, but that are doubting you, right?
They don't know what they don't know.
They don't know what they don't know. And that's you have to have empathy for them. But as you have empathy for them and feel for them and kind of understand where they're coming from, you also, one thing you're doing that you're not realizing is you're also opening your own mindset and really gaining that own confidence for yourself, because you have to have that confidence in yourself that you are making that right decision. And anybody that's not on board with you is making the wrong decision.
Totally.
And you should have empathy for them because they're not making that correct decision. You should have that kindness and just not. I think a lot of times when people get told not to do something by somebody they love, they feel sad, like you did, right? These individuals,
they get bitter and they
get
choose
bitter.
The mindset of, well, I'm going to go show you.
I'm going to go show you wrong.
They use it as fuel.
Right. And that's a strategy for sure. The way that I take it and the way that I go about it is to have empathy for that individual, have kindness to that individual, because they like you said, dude, they don't know.
Give them a front row seat, invite them into your world.
They don't know what you don't know, and it gives you a great opportunity to be able to teach these individuals as well, right?
Totally.
To help them understand, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. And then it can completely rid any negativity that could come from that situation if you take that approach.
And I guess that's the main point is, again, you got to keep a boundary. Like you cannot give that invitation and then allow this high negative energy person who's bombarding you. That's a line you've got to draw. That's a boundary you have to draw with individuals. But what I was going to point out is there's so many benefits that come from keeping that door open, as long as it doesn't cross that boundary, because again, you gain so much energy from providing service, providing kindness. That fills your cup. That helps you move forward. But bitterness, being judgmental, being angry, those types of feelings, not beneficial. Do not fill the cup. Do not create the best version of you.
I agree. The way that
is a tricky thing to navigate. I actually talked. Tyler took off. So happy for him right now. He's out in Miami. And
hanging out with Grant Cardone.
Just doing his thing.
Awesome.
I think they were just riding around a helicopter.
Yeah, they were riding his helicopters. Awesome.
But Tyler and I were talking about this prior of inviting those people who don't understand, providing them a landscape, an opportunity, environment, if you will, to understand. And we all learn at our own pace. We all learn at our own willingness. But man, you cannot afford to fill yourself up with anger, bitterness, and negativity.
The best way that I like to look at it, and you know what, this kind of principle that we're talking about right now, Dallas, it's not the popular principle. Right?
I don't think so.
The popular principle is somebody pisses you off, screw them, go do work and go use that as fuel.
Frickin' show 'em.
This is what I would like to say contrary to that, because I'm very much in line with you. I don't necessarily think that's the best move. But when someone's feeding you negativity, someone's feeding you shit, and you're gonna eat that shit for fuel.
Yeah.
You think that's gonna make you feel good?
No, it's still shit.
It's still shit.
So it's probably gonna taste
it's still
like
shit.
Garbage. Yeah.
So there's not going to be any positive outcome from eating that negative shit.
Yep.
There's no positive. Like, that's my true belief, and that's my mindset of it. And I understand that might not be the popular thing, and that some people might have a different opinion or a different look at
Take on that. Sure.
Take on that. But that's truly how I feel. If you could turn that negativity into a positivity, into a positive, and then eat that and serve that person, you're going to gain so much more out of it than holding in that negative.
That's where true change happens.
Yep.
That's where true change happens.
True change happens in you and that person. Hopefully that person can really understand that you're coming from again, this is something that we talk about often, setting your intentions. They're going to feel your intention. If your intention is, I'm doing this for me, and I want you to like see this, and I want to help you understand why I'm doing this, they're going to feel that intention. They're going to feel that positivity. But if you're coming at it from an angle of, I'm going to show you, screw you, I'm right, you're wrong, they're also going to feel that.
Totally.
And they're never going to get on board.
And it's worth noting that says those negative bombs that come your direction from other individuals in your close inner family, friends, circle, it says a lot more about them than it says about you.
So true.
Right? And you have to remind yourself at the flip of a switch when that's happening. This is not my issue. This is their issue. This is not my issue. This is their issue. Now,
if you do that, it's so much easier to have compassion for them as well. If you do exactly what Dallas is saying, it's so much easier to have compassion for that person. If you realize what they're saying really has nothing to do with me and their own fear and their own insecurities.
Because at the end of the day, whether they have confidence in that decision or not, where does your confidence come from?
Taking action.
Come from other people?
No.
Your confidence, self-confidence is self-confidence. It comes from you. It comes from taking action. It comes from making a promise to yourself and keeping it, from doing it. At some point, I had to gain my own confidence. My dad fed me all the right words and sentiments and everything else growing up. My mom, same thing. At some point, I have to decide for myself if I'm going to increase real confidence in my life. And the only way that happened was by following suit with what I felt called to and committed to do and kept that promise, small actions, big actions, whatever, to myself. And the same effect happens when you commit and then decommit because you've listened to, when you've received an answer, when you've received confirmation, when you've committed to a process, right? You've committed to doing something. And here's the thing. It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
There's always, what I'm trying to get at is, you think that this is a problem because you've chose this avenue? Whatever this avenue is that's hard, choose a different hard avenue. It doesn't matter. There is always, 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 always something you have to accept, something you have to know, right? I talk about your knows, KNOWS. Something you have to know is there's always going to be people that talk negative. Yep. There's always going to be people willing at the drop of a hat to give you their opinion on something they don't know anything about or are very limited in their knowledge. And if they do have knowledge about it, it's not firsthand experience. It's for banter from some story they've heard about a person who was in a situation similar to yours it's never from a primary, I've been sitting in the seat and been through that, let me tell you, right? If it is, then be a little more conscious about what you're listening to.
Yeah.
But also be careful, because that person experience, your experience is completely different than mine. We are all on our own unique stage, journey, figuring out. All we can do is lean into the things that work once we've had a confirmation, once we've committed. And the more time and energy and attention we give to that, the more we start to figure things out. But again, people can play a huge factor, and you just got to be cautious about who you're listening to, if they've been there, and what they're leaning on in providing you that advice direction.
That last bit you just said is you have to pay attention to where your time, effort, and energy and focus is going.
Yep.
The minute somebody says something negative to you, the minute you feel negativity towards that person or you feel angst or anything towards that person, they immediately whatever that they said, they've accomplished what they were trying to do, and that's take you off track.
Totally.
And try to convince you otherwise.
Protect yourself.
Protect your energy. Protect your energy. You have to
protect your time. Protect your focus. Protect your attention.
Exactly. So again, you get to decide that, though. At the end of the day, one of the things that Dallas and I like to study is Stoicism, and one of the ancient Stoics believed that in any moment you get to decide your emotion. You get to decide. So the minute somebody says something to you, there's a split second right there where you get to decide if you're going to take that for a positive, if you're going to take that for a negative, if you're going to react positively, if you're going to react negatively. That's the truth. You, at the end of the day, no matter what anybody says to you, no matter what any opinion comes to you your way, you get to decide how you take that energy when it's sent your way.
Viktor Frankl worded it as like between stimulus and response, there's that that gap.
Yes.
That gap's crucial, man. You got to master the gap. You've got to get better at mastering the gap and making conscious, right decisions within that moment. And then that propels you forward in the right direction. And you've got to protect in that gap. You've got to make that conscious decision. You've got to rid yourself of an error and say, no, I'm going to protect my time, energy, attention, and focus here.
How do we practice that?
Yeah.
How do we practice that? Because that's something that's a tool, like it's a skill that you have.
Totally.
It's a skill that I'm trying to master. But how do we practice? How do we practice in those moments being able to make the right decision for ourselves?
I think a lot of it's just like anything else, and it starts with little things. Right? So if you can get better at mastering that gap with something little, some small stimulus, something that's not as maddening, something that's not as frustrating, and building up to those bigger things. But if you can't even master that, like for example, road rage, like you get cut off on the freeway and you freaking get irate and you're like, you zoom up and you're flipping some dude off or whatever, or your kid doesn't pick up their towel after getting in the shower and hang it up in the right spot, or whatever. Pick something small. Those are prime opportunities to practice that gap between stimulus and response. You have control over your emotions. You have control over your response, and you have to make conscious decisions so that you stay in line with what's good, what produces, what's right. And so I think just like anything else, start with small things. Like be very conscious about the small things, those gaps within those small situations, and master it there.
Yeah.
And then that starts to bleed into all the bigger things, right?
And then when these big situations come up, you are in more of control. Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes habit. It's just like any other habit, right? But if you're just trying to like rely on willpower in the big moment when something happens and like compartmentalize everything that we just talked about, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. You've got to practice it just like any other habit. It's just like you have to put it into motion on a regular basis within smaller situations and build up to the big. And it's a process. It's not just going to click overnight. You're not going to wake up tomorrow after listening to the GROWTHCAST and say, go to a family party.
I'm going to be positive about everything.
John says, hey, you still doing that freaking thing? You're not going to just be able to lean into your willpower and go, yep, thanks. It's going to take some practice.
Yeah.
Something that also helps, though, is if you are going to that family party tomorrow and Uncle John is going to be there, you should set yourself up for some success right now. Walk through that scenario and also expect it to happen.
Yeah.
Come to expect that it's going to happen. Know that adversity is going to hit you head on. Anytime you up the stakes, anytime you up the ante and you go to attack something large, something big, something worthwhile, so many people decide they're going to do that and they live in unrealistic expectations thinking that those types of things aren't going to happen to them because they're going to figure it out better, faster, it's all going to be whatever. No, swallow the freaking pill that Uncle John's going to say that tomorrow. Set yourself up for success and walk through a scenario where he does say that in your mind, and then also visualize yourself navigating that thing successfully, navigating that gap between the stimulus and what your response is going to be. Practice it in your mind and then go out and make it come to fruition in the real time when it does happen, but don't live in la-la land thinking that Uncle John's not going to say that to you next time you go to the party. Also know that 5 years down the road, Uncle John, if he's wealthy, he's probably going to be the guy that's investing with you too. So don't burn the freaking bridge the next time he crosses you and says something that...
Great call.
Yeah.
You want to keep those, and you want to keep those relationships. Totally. There's always you can learn something from everybody. Like, I don't want us to pass over that either. You know what I mean? Just because Uncle John doesn't think you should be doing your own business or starting your own multifamily business or whatever it is.
Coming back full circle.
Doesn't mean that he can't
provide.
Where is
his opinion valuable?
Yeah.
Is he a good dad like Eddie?
Then
is he a good... You better listen in those areas.
Is he the best uncle you've ever had? Then
Absolutely.
You have so much to learn from than from Uncle Joe or whoever it is.
Totally.
So I don't want to pass that over either, is that everybody has something to serve. Everybody has something to learn from. Just because they might be thinking that you shouldn't be doing something doesn't mean that you can't learn something else from them. Dallas, so many actionables today, dude. Thank you. I've loved having you here. This episode's flown by. We've been talking for over 30 minutes.
What's it been, an hour?
We've just been cruising here. So thank you so much, dude. I know your wife and baby are waiting for you to go have some fun at the beach, so I won't keep you any longer. But, dude, thank you so much. And I just want to review a few of the actionables before we actually wrap up. So when your family or your friends are saying you're making the wrong choice, let's just review some of these actionables. The very first thing Dallas said was, you have to create some sort of separation, some physical separation, not spending so much time with these individuals. And then not only that, but then replacing those individuals with somebody that's going to fuel you and help you get to where you want to go.
You've got to change your circle up.
You have to.
As you change, you've got to surround yourself with people who add to the vision, help you move, take steps towards the reality of that situation that you're working towards.
And for those of you that are following me and my kind of weight loss health journey, you have noticed that my inner circle has changed drastically. Big shout out to Strat and Nico and Tyler for their help with me. So
can I tell you about something
that's just a great example. Dallas as well. But just real quick, that's just like a great example. You change your circle, you can potentially change your life, and it's such a great thing. Hold on, I just want to review the actionables, but I definitely want to hear what you have to say. The other actionable that was for me is have kindness for these individuals. Feed them full of positivity. If they want to be negative to you, you feed them full back of positivity because they're going to feel your intentions. And when they feel your intention, sooner or later they're going to jump on board because everybody wants positivity.
Or
in their
they'll
life.
quit talking negative.
Or they'll quit talking negative to lead to you, which both of those outcomes is a thumbs up.
Dubs.
And exactly
both
what
are
you
W's.
Want. Yep. What was the last one that we talked about? Oh, practice those situations.
Practice the gap.
Practice the
Stimulus between stimulus and response.
Yeah, practice. When those opportunities do come up,
the
be
small
prepared.
Opportunities.
Yeah, be prepared. Well, practice in the smaller opportunities so that when the bigger opportunities come up, like Uncle Joe at the family party bad-mouthing you, you are prepared and you're ready to act, and that won't affect your energy your
Totally.
willpower, your purpose.
And also adopt the mindset that it's going to, like, expect it.
Yeah.
Expect that situation to happen.
It's going to. It should, and it should. On past GROWTHCAST episodes, Tyler
Talking
even
about being
said
celebratory that it's happening, because that means that you're
it's a
moving
great
in the right
indicator
direction.
that you're moving in the right direction. If your circle is changing and your circle is thinking, what the hell is this dude doing? It's a good indicator that you are making traction in the
crucial
right
step that you have to take. Everybody else that figured it out in their own spaces, doing those great things, they all had to navigate it, and you are not special or unique. You don't get to be exempt from it.
Nope, everybody's going to have that. Yep.
So what I was going to say, though, is when you were talking about your inner circle and Strat and Nico, and I'm very observant, pay attention when I'm in, especially like a new environment. And I remember Strat was leaving this morning, and he's like, "Hey, see you, brother. Talk to you in just a little while." And he said, "Hey, don't forget to what?
Take your picture."
And I am not part of the morning workout and the systems that you guys have in place, but I know there was meaning and purpose behind that. And that's why. And would you have done that prior to jumping on board with these guys and doing it the way you do it and everything else?
No, I wouldn't have.
I absolutely know you wouldn't have, because it never happened. And that's why it's so important to surround ourselves with people who have been where we're trying to go, and believe and know, not just believe, but know that it's possible and know that you'll do it. You have to protect your time, energy, effort, and attention and focus and all those things, and direct them towards those types of relationships, those types of conversations, because every one of them contributes and adds to your success in moving to that destination.
Powerful stuff, dude. So, we've highlighted some really, really valuable actionables. This is a very valuable episode. To the individual that reached out with this concern, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
You have no idea how much this fueled us, and really gives us a good reminder of things that we need to be talking about. So thank you for your comments. Dallas, thank you so much for your time. Strat, thank you so much for being behind the camera and always doing your thing. We appreciate you as well, my man. For our listeners, we appreciate you. We love you. Please share the episode. Please share the episode with those of you think could benefit from it. Everybody can benefit from the GROWTHCAST, so share it with everybody.
I feel like I want to close this one out.
Go ahead.
Because I'm in Maui.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do it as good as Tyler. But, I mean, if we're here, I've got to say, live always with aloha and
peace.
Peace.
That's what you did.
Yeah.
Love it, dude.